Madam Secretary, thanks so much for being here. Good to have you in Southern California.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
So talk for a moment about how you think of your job. Because Republicans have talked about this idea of getting rid of the department that you are now leading. How do you see your job?
Well, I can tell you the president was very clear when he asked me to serve as the Secretary of Education. He said I would be successful when I'd fired myself. So I know what my job mandate is. But what the president really means by that is to take the bureaucracy out of education, to make sure that best practices can be handed off to the states, that the funding is continuing to flow for those critical programs like Title I and IDEA for handicapped and special ed students, but to get rid of all the fat that's there and just those programs that really aren't serving students.
I mean, does that mean, do you think during this administration the department is literally gone?
Well, I can tell you that operationally it's much easier to close down the department than from a policy perspective, because from a policy perspective, Congress has to vote to close the Department of Education, which is why other presidents have not been successful. They couldn't get the vote. My hope is, and my goal, is to work with Congress and to be transparent with them and to show them by doing things this way, we actually will service our students better, our scores will go up, and our education quality will improve across the country.
So we're here in Southern California, home of the Los Angeles Unified School District, one of the largest in the country, also one of the poorest in the country. 80% of kids in that district live in poverty, and there's a lot of people there that are scared that if the department shrinks in size, that they won't get the help that they need. What do you say to people that are afraid that the most vulnerable are going to get hurt by these kinds of reforms?
Well, you will still have the same people in government here unless you change, but the funding, even in the president's new budget, the funding for Title I, which services that community the most, that funding is preserved.
So no reason to worry. They're going to keep getting their stuff.
They were still getting the funds flowing in, but if they're not being serviced well now, then you need to make changes to local school boards and things like that.
Let's talk about higher education now. Interesting news this week with you and Harvard sending a letter to Harvard. I know you and the Trump administration are frustrated by the way they're handling things. What's your bottom line message of your letter to them?
The bottom line message is obey the law. And the law is that civil rights have to be protected on college campuses. There's not room for discrimination of any kind, but anti-Semitism is something that's reared its ugly head for years, and Harvard really hasn't done much about it. The other thing is, what is causing a lot of this unrest on campuses? Is it students who come in from countries outside of the United States? Are they vetted well before they're admitted to Harvard? How about teachers? So let's just make sure that we're looking into the backgrounds to have wholesome experiences on college campuses. And that's not to say we don't want, that's not taking anything away from First Amendment rights.
Right.
These are civil rights issues we're talking about, and safety on campuses. But we should have debate and open thinking. That's what colleges and universities are about.
So you're saying you want to pull federal funding from Harvard. What would they have to do to get it back?
Well, what the president has said is that due to the size of their endowment, which is a little over $53 billion, that taxpayer money shouldn't really be going to Harvard. But most of the money now that has been frozen is in the research area from HHS and from NIH services. So a lot of good research has been done by universities and continues to be done, but there are a lot of donors providing that $53 billion endowment. Perhaps instead of tax dollars, they could use donor money for that.
Well, we've got a lot of high-profile schools here in California, from Stanford and Berkeley, USC, UCLA, other folks like that. Should they be concerned that something similar is going to happen to them next? Is Harvard the beginning of a process?
Well, what we've done is we've launched investigations into about 40 universities, and I believe, I'd have to check, but I think there is one here in California, just to look at their policies to see what they are doing. One of the things that we have just focused in a little bit also is the fact that under the Section 117 of the Higher Education Act, colleges are required by law to report foreign money that is donated, where it comes from and how much. And universities across the country have not been doing that in abiding by the law. So we're cracking down on that as well to make sure where this funding is coming from and how much.
So more could be coming on that front.
It could be coming, yes.
And in terms of you, just to get to know you a little bit, a lot of people obviously know you from wrestling and other different things they've done over the years. How has all of that life experience prepared you for this role?
I think any experience you have in life, but let me go back to even when I was in college. I've always loved education. I actually majored in French in college. I wanted to be a teacher. I got my certificate to teach, but my career path went in a different direction. But I did serve on the State Board of Education in Connecticut, and I've been on a board of trustees on a university for 16 years. So it's not as though I've been totally apart from any form of education. But what the president said to me when he asked me to take over this job, because I told him, I said, look, I don't come from the world of education. You know, wouldn't you want a professor or a superintendent? He said, no. He said, because I'm really looking at the business of the Department of Education. I want a business executive and a leader. He said, and you fit that bill perfect.
You've been unbelievably successful in that front over the years. And lastly, just so much is said about President Trump. A lot of supporters here, a lot of opponents here as well.
Sure.
What do you think is the biggest misconception about him, or maybe something about him that most of us don't know?
Well, I couldn't get inside your head, but I can tell you one of the biggest misperceptions that I see and hear often is that people don't think he listens and that he kind of does things, spur of the moment. He is very thoughtful, but he actually just sees implications of things, how things fit together, and he acts on it.
Secretary McMahon, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Great getting to know you.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.